Let's just wander along here. I want to show you the bush at the end. We've seen this before, and every year it seems to be doing better and better. This is the Mediterranean shrub or tree called the chaste tree or the chaste bush. Chaste as in virginal rather than being followed. And it's a magnet for the bumblebees and other insects as well. The name chaste tree is reflected in its Latin and Greek binomial. It's called Vitex Angus-castus, which is Greek and Latin for virginal chaste, because the dried fruits, which aren't produced, of course the fruits aren't produced in this climate, the dried fruits, when chewed, are supposed to reduce libido, sexual desire, especially pertinent to monks, and hence the German name monk's pepper. It was also, however, known to the ancients, and people like Theophrastus wrote about it, as a cure for women's ailments like premenstrual syndrome and heavy periods. Whether it actually works is another matter altogether. An intriguing tree with a very long history. Still flowering and buzzing away with insects, Wickstromia, or Daphne gemata. But next to it is the most wonderful thing, I think. The glistening black seeds of the Mediterranean peony, Peony cambessidacea. You have to have a few guesses as to how many S's there are. But the black seeds are set off by these red immature seeds, and they are a fabulous sight in the sun. Although the Hydrangea asperas I've got are mostly finished and gone over, this gorgeous one here with its very pale flowers has only just got going. This was a present from the Cornish National Trust gardeners to me some years back. It's formed a very large shrub covered in flowers, collected in China. On the way to see the eucomis, I rather skipped over this large shrub from Australia, which is actually now dripping with flowers. Grey leaf, orange flowers. They remain quite tightly shut for several weeks before opening up, but they're nonetheless decorative for that. This is Grevillea victoriae. It has a wide range in southeastern Australia, often occurring right up in the highest mountains. I think this is what gives it its hardiness, because it is actually pretty hardy, where Grevilleas in general are a bit on the tender side. Its nice wide grey leaves set off the orange flowers very well, I think. We're coming this way to look at this rather intriguing shrub, or more or less a tree now. The intriguing bit is these funny little flowers that dangle beneath the leaves. sometimes rather difficult to see them, but luckily this tree is very old now and is tall enough for you to be able to look under the leaves to these funny little flowers with their reflexed petals. This is Alangium platanifolium. In other words, the leaves look a bit like a plane tree's leaves. It was sold to me as Alangium chinense, which is in fact a tropical species. I mean, spectacular it isn't, but intriguing, I say. Intriguing is the word. Along here is a hydrangea, which I really like. It's sort of very Japanese in that it's absolutely crammed full of double flowers. This is called yokudanka. And it's out in August and starts fading somewhat in September. But our daughter got married in August a few years back, and I put a couple of flower heads of this hydrangea in her bouquet. Just coming past this acacia with, look at all the buds for next March. Fantastic it's going to be. Anyway, the thing is, we're coming this way because I want to show you this small dense tree, or large shrub I suppose, absolutely weighed down with its scented flowers and very attractive to insects. This comes from Southeast Asia and Japan. It's called Kalopanax septemlobus, and although the specific name would indicate 7 lobes on the leaves, you don't need to be a mathematician to discover that these ones are actually 5-lobed. 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And apparently this is a variation. Coming around the side, I'll show you the trunk. And like most Aralias, there are very sharp thorns, as I've found to my cost, weeding underneath. Some time ago, the side branch broke off, but you can see at the base of the trunk this extraordinary warty sort of growth in the bark. Let's come back past Bertie. Have a last look at the flowers. The wheelbarrow looking rather picturesque. This time of year we hard strim the long grass area right down to almost bare earth, and then rake it all up. Bit of hard work. Actually, there's a little vole in here. It's So you have to be a bit careful when you're trimming a wild patch. So we left some piles of grass for the foal to hide in and then make his escape. We'll now keep it mown, and then in the spring all the bulbs and flowers will come through. In spite of our best efforts, this enormous dahlia, although tied up, has managed to bend itself forwards. But in doing so, it seems to have made rather a pretty picture in amongst the geraniums. I have no idea what the dahlia is called, except it was a tuber given to me by a patient many years ago, and it's been very happy here ever since. It reminds me the patient's husband was quite ill, and his last year was more or less bedridden, but he had been a very proud member of the Royal Marines, and in bed in his pyjamas he would always have his beret on. I remember him well. Here we go. Exotic, I call it. This is a hibiscus, totally herbaceous, which comes up from the ground from nothing to about 2 meters plus to the top. As you can see, it's absolutely covered in flower buds, which are these rather strange sort of spidery looking things, and then they open up into a dirty great saucer like flower. We've had quite a lot of rain just now, and they've got a bit on the battered side. Unfortunately, the flowers do not last that long, a couple of days, but there's always more buds to come. Very exotic hibiscus mosquitos. Autumn is on its way, which means the red hot pokers are coming up. This is Kniphofia coalescens. Very bold leaves, and the flowers held well above. If we go along here, we get to the other harbinger of autumn, Kniphofia rooperi. This is doing really well here. You can see masses of new flowers coming up. They are quite conspicuous, even though they aren't held way above the leaves as the other poker is. Many more to come. And here we are about a week later, and my goodness, I think you'll agree it's quite a show.